I'm back. So check this out. We're going to go into my files, okay? And I'm going to show you my files. I go into, if you can see, I don't know if this is seeable, but I go into my album art file that I have here, a folder, and then I go into the actual album itself, because eventually I'm going to have another album here. So I go into Could Have It All, and it was pretty cool going through some of these files. I would love to take the time to show you what was, okay, over the years when I first started out, and what the original intent, though I was lost and confused. I was trying to figure out what it was that I didn't have a clear direction. Can I just say that one of the biggest things that I was going through in 2010, especially after meeting a psychopath, is that I didn't have a clear direction. I just knew things that I've done in the past, and I didn't want to repeat a lot of that again. I wanted to do something else, but it wasn't clear to me what it was that I was even attempting to do. With that being said, the dominancy was I wanted to be able to get my needs met and get away from living in the ideas of others. It's best for everyone, okay? And meanwhile, I don't know what to do, but I want to move forward in my musical endeavors. It means a lot to me to do that. In fact, I take it extremely serious. But I don't really know what musical endeavors I'm going to do, because I was hoping to connect with other people, and I was hoping to make serious recordings, and I didn't know if I wanted to have a cover band, or if I wanted, I didn't want to do no more solo acoustic stuff. Okay, can I be honest? I didn't want to do that. Sick of doing solo acoustic endeavors. After doing them for over 7.5 years plus, pretty much my whole life, it's not acoustic music. I love acoustic music, but I want to do something different. Then. And I don't want to confuse then with now, because now is different, and maybe someday I'll talk about that. Once you get started on the endeavors inside of the truth within your brain, in my opinion, it goes on for eternity. You'll never accomplish, in my opinion, there is no absolute accomplish, except for if you consider baby steps like album and another album and another album. Because it seems like it opens up an eternal acknowledgement that when you start surrendering to the truth in your head, it's endless. There's more to do and more to do. And it seems like there's much more to do, that it dissolves off into an eternal, sort of like a hallway, walkway. In other words, contentment. When you start surrendering to the truth in your brain, what, from my perspective, is it seems like you can stay busy always. There's always plenty to do. In other words, God has given you a lot of passion. There are great desires inside of you. If it's not recording music, then it's doing other endeavors that you would really enjoy to do. And it just goes on and on and on and on. It's a lot different than when I was going about life listening to a lot of other people and wanting to connect with people, and I was kind of waiting until that perfect somebody connected with me in my life. We could have a family, build a house, do life together, worship. And what I've realized through all that process is it's momentarily, it's temporarily, but I am always with me, thank God, and I'm always with God. And when I stay more focused on the inner truth within myself, it's an absolute, I'm not waiting around for somebody else. You get busy now, and you stay busy. And you realize then that you don't want to connect with other people unless whatever it is that they do, and I might not know how to say the right words, but whatever it is they do is it's a servanthood. to you, your heart inside your brain. Too many times in my life I have listened to other people at large, and I applied what they were saying because maybe I respected them or looked up to them, or I was lost and I just didn't know what to do, so I'm trying to listen for possibility of smartness. And I've learned that you do not just want to connect with people. And I have to say that I honestly only know mildly from my past experiences in my life what it's like to connect with people short term, that there's an actual reason outside of physical contact to be with somebody in a relationship at all. You know? Maybe you show up at a playground and you're playing basketball and somebody else is playing basketball. So you connect and you kind of dig each other and you're playing basketball while you're there. And then as they go home, you go home, and you might see each other again, you might not. Or maybe you're riding bike and you run into somebody else who's riding bike and they say, hey, I'm going down here, do you want to ride along? But I'm going to be going another way. But you can come with me if you want to. And you ride bike with them and you hang out. And you may never see them again, or you will. You know, that kind of servanthood to your heart. In other words, you are already doing something that you love and want to do that day in that moment. And somewhere along the lines, you're connecting with somebody else who may be doing the exact same thing or maybe not, but you get to share a moment in time together. And then, are you back together again ever, or maybe not? And it's very unfortunate for me that I was really looking for a soul connection and kind of like a best friend. So I had a few best friends. It's not that I didn't. And I loved my best friends a lot. And I spent a lot of time with them. But I also, even though I loved people I loved, I was also hurting inside tremendously. I couldn't help but have dominant thoughts in my mind that I really want to do something, but I don't know what it is. You know, I don't want to go off on that right now. I just say that since I started my musical endeavors in 2012, I have never stopped working on those endeavors since July of 2012. Every single day. It's my dominancy outside of, I try to take care of myself the best I can, but working on my music and videos and any kind of tutorials, I realized that as I became more committed to myself, believe it or not, I became more fulfilled. And I used to listen to somebody who continuously said, get your mind off yourself. And continuously preaching about doing something for others and stop being selfish with your life. And when you listen to that and you're a loving person, it does a lot of psychological damage to you. I'm learning that when you serve God, which is words, which is your brain, which is the absolute truth within you, to the better of your ability, familiar with it, all of a sudden the corridor of endlessness comes out. And it's not other people's idea of how maybe you should serve others or help others. If they don't see it, then that help just simply might not be for them. But the truth of the matter is you realize that you could help and connect with more people, being faithful and true to your own inner truth, than you ever could by just going out there and proving to another man, the government, a group of men, okay, that you are now contributing to others. That's what I've learned. And I don't want to, stay dominant on that right now, but I have been receiving education along with serving the inner truth. And if the people who knew heard what was coming out of my mouth and they hear me in sincerity speaking, they would realize what fools they have been most of their lives and how cruel they must have been to their own children, forcing them against their own reasoning of creation. I do not know all the answers, but I have it in my pamphlet. I know the one who does know the answers very well. And when I started making this CD label that I'm going to show you, I wanted a real car. I was most certainly head over heels over the 50s decade, Elvis, and the people mentioned in my song that I called Ragtop Cadillac, but could have it all. I really, really loved the 50s. I understand that my mom was, through her childhood years, teen years, if you would, she lived through the 50s. And I was obsessed with my mom. I thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world. As a child growing up, I felt that way. I admired her more than I admired anybody in human form. I had to be with my mother all the time. Or, and it is a dominant reason why I was perceived as a sissy. Okay, spoiled brat. A mama's child. Okay, I could go on and on. You know where this is going. Favoritism. And, you know, a lot of people will use a lot of statements like that, and they might not do it on purpose. But if they're not careful, it's mental abuse against the child. We've been created to love. And if you really, really love someone in your life, don't let other people's ridiculous mouth, the words that come out of it, make you feel that your addiction to that human being is not healthy. If I would have had my way as a child, now my mom might not have felt the same way. If I would have had my way, I would have been with my mother every single night and day. I prayed for her every day. I cried because I didn't want her to work. I wanted her to be at home and be safe. I loved the way she smelled. I used to watch her when she would put her makeup on her face and do her hair. I was her greatest admirer. There was no other love, and I didn't understand that the love that I felt for my mother, I could not feel for another. I loved, and I loved a lot of different people, but I didn't love anybody like my mother. With that being said, my mom, and looking back on her childhood years, photographs, they used to have silent films. I got to watch this a lot and reminisce. And for some reason, I felt that the spirit of the 50s was great. You know, it was mighty. And I felt like in my lifetime, a lot of that spirit was missing. Now, why did I feel that way? I don't know, but I felt that way. And I know more of the answers today, but I don't want to talk too much about it at this time. With that being said, that's what this song truly is about. And it brought me in a connection to when I made a wish in the basement of my grandmother's house, which ironically was the place, as far as I know, where my Uncle Sam, who was a bass singer in a quartet, made his earlier recordings, or used to rehearse at least, with gospel quartets. And my family truly was a bigger inspiration to me than a majority of others when it comes to the closeness of it. I mean, they were right there in my sharing house quarters with me, you know, so I got to see them on a regular basis or semi-regular basis. So I admired them the most. My mom I admired more than any other human being. And she used to share a lot of stories about the 50s with me and how she used to jump car to car, you know, and the different people she hung out with. I really wanted to capture my idea of the spirit of the 50s within this song. And I would have to say it was inspired at an amazing diner in Furlong, Pennsylvania. And I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to go into the diner and be inspired by all the photographs and the atmosphere. And at that time, I don't know if she still owns it, but the owner who had the place, very, very friendly and kind. And I got the opportunity to share that story on YouTube. Here's the thing, so check this out. I want to move this along a little bit because we got a lot to do. This album art, I had started, and I'm going to show you, okay? I don't know if this is like the actual final one, okay? But this is it. And as you can see, my name and my font, it wasn't yet the way that it has become. And I really consider myself at that time psychologically to be more of a 50s kind of person. And, you know, I didn't know what else to do, so I made kind of like a promotional CD. And I put, you know, like my Facebook page and my email account. And the title of the promotional CD was Ragtop Cadillac. This was back in 2011. Originally, I had put that it was inspired by Elvis at the 50s Diner. Okay. Really, the whole atmosphere inspired me, but there was a second season of time, because when I was a child, I loved Elvis a lot, like a lot of people. I might not have had the collection of albums that a lot of people did, but between our household, it's like we had every single one. Between our household and my cousins, my uncle, and between all of us, because we used to share albums and stuff, and when we lived side by side, and between all of us, it at least felt that way, you know, as a child. Wow, I used to tell people, wow, I think we have every album that Elvis ever recorded. And I'm sure we did not, but, and I was always interested in hearing an Elvis song that I did not hear. I was really crazy about that as a child. And my mom was okay with it, with listening to someone like Elvis versus some of the other music that I started to listen to in later years. She tried to protect me on the words and the kind of music I was listening to. And can I say I'm very thankful for that? Very much so. I would not change that in any way. So sometimes I was kind of wondering, or if I was talking to somebody else, it seemed like it was a little strict. I don't feel that way today. Like, I think sometimes I'm glad my mom loved me enough to be concerned what I'm listening to. That says a lot. And that's another reason why I include the lyrics to my songs, or I want to make them available for people. Because if, you know, you really feel strongly of someone you love, or you should not be consuming or listening to one of my songs or all of them, then it might be what's best. My intent is to try to keep it as family-oriented as possible. Okay, my idea of family-oriented. Not necessarily your idea of family-oriented. Because it's more of sharing my inner thoughts and my life and my love for God and, you know, music. That's why I do what I do. When I share it with other people, I feel that it's very important that they are aware of the subjects at hand that is talked about, and then they make their own judgment as to whether or not it's safe enough for them to listen to, or if they'd rather not. I would caution people to be mindful, and don't be afraid to be demanding in a gentle way of letting other people know what you think of the content that they're putting out. No matter who it is, me too. Because if you really paid attention to the words in a lot of songs, then you would realize that it's kind of the difference between eating extremely healthy, chemical-free food and the purities of water versus eating things that are filled with all kinds of contaminants. Okay? Don't just love and take care of your body. Love your psychological. Your psychological has a lot to do with your overallness. Okay, your physical as well as your psychological combined together. And one of the reasons that really got me into writing a lot in a graceful way, it happened over slow, is, to be honest, I was sick of hearing the same songs all these years throughout my life. Christmas music is a good one, right? I love Christmas music, but we've been hearing the same Christmas songs our entire life. And you wonder, have you ever wondered, why isn't there more Christmas music? Just as good Christmas music. Have you ever wondered, is there any other recording artist than the same people we've been listening to all of our life? Did you ever wonder that? The same people on TV, the same person or people in movie after movie after movie. Did you ever wonder that? Did you ever wonder why they would even make things up and show you the kind of life that they're living or the expense of the equipment and stuff that they're using to do these things? Yet, have you also realized the imbalance in humanity? Like, for instance, why is a bunch of people in very tight economical situations going to rock concerts with credit cards? Do you ever wonder that? Why are tickets so high in a lot of situations that a person has to use their credit card to go? It's pretty pathetic. You know, I think so. So I don't contribute to that. I tried to most of my life. If you don't have cash at hand, then understand there's a reason for it. What is that reason? If you can't exchange something for a value of what you have already, you want to be careful about going into debt rather than solving the problem as to why don't you have it. And if you get into the Bible, and you'd realize one of the dominant reasons why the government had tried for years to keep the Bible silent in school is because once humans understand the rights that God offers everybody, they lose momentum out of the domination process. That's what I've realized. Part of it. God's way is much higher than man's way. And I would say, don't look to a leader, in human form. The only real leader is God. No man or group of men can do for you what God of the universe is willing to do. So in here I gave thanks. As you can see, I put on thanks. And can I just say, I don't want to go through this right now, but it was at a very difficult time in my life where I was lost. I didn't know what to do about myself. I was more concerned about my circumstances. I wanted to pursue moving forward with musical endeavors, but I also had serious matters. I tried very hard not to let it out to other people. I would kind of offer a little bit, but not the entirety, because I don't feel like I want to go around the rest of my life constantly explaining my circumstances. The situation that happened with me when I went down to Nashville, Tennessee, I don't want to share right now, but I will be going down to Nashville between the next album completion and starting Miss Las Vegas. I plan on going back to 1972, coming forward, not my whole life story, but actually calling establishments that I hold accountable for crucial points that I know. For instance, like when I went to school and I tugged on my mom and I cried my eyes out, I don't want to go to a public school. I even suggested I wanted a tutor. I even brought up that they don't even pray. Okay? My mom had me pray on a regular basis. She already understood these things. And I don't want to get into that subject right now. I was bullied a lot at school. I don't know where they're at with keeping kids safe today. I'm sure new ways are coming. But I realized that with things like that, when you don't really want to do something and you're forced to do it, it definitely puts a strain on your brain. Don't put a strain on my brain shirts. Coming soon. And don't put a strain on my brain. It would be really catchy, wouldn't it? Don't put a say, yo, don't put a strain on my brain. Because that's what ends up happening when people get forced to do things against their desire. Okay? As a little child, I don't know the answer. But I know if you're telling me to go to a school where it's best to keep God out of it, looking back now, you're already losing momentum. Momentum. You know what I mean, right? And it's the same thing that happened here. Got the song recorded, in my opinion, it was done half-assed, especially after going through what I went through. I'm not saying the people involved were half-assed. I'm saying the recording. And I know this because I recorded with another producer, thank goodness. Though I was grateful to experience this, I also really didn't like going through most of it. And it made it even harder because I understood that I couldn't connect with another human being, that I could spill out my heart with where I'm at, that I don't know what else to do, and I have serious circumstances. So when I'm making this CD, I remember I used to want to see myself as a cartoon. And I went through a lot of pain because I did want a real car. I remember thinking that. I learned to accept this image of me because the way that I did it ended up turning out like a cartoon. And I remember thinking, I always want to be a cartoon. That's what started to be the process of kind of healing in the process of doing this. But in the beginning, I really wanted, one of the hardest things as an escort when I was an adult entertainer is I knew that that was the time I wanted to find and connect, like a producer for music, I wanted to find the very best photographer for models, okay, wherever, in the world, in the country. And I paid attention, I spoke, I wasn't afraid to talk about it, and I had some situations occur that affected me, it hurt. And a lot of it was very difficult to find people who would work with transsexuals. Okay, at least me. Okay? And that was very obvious to me. It was because I was transsexual. And this bothered me, and it affected me in a very negative manner. I understood that it wasn't just for me because I did not have a foundation to stand on, and now I can be King Kong in my own little foundation. I was homeless, bouncing around place to place. If I wasn't somebody's idea of life, I have to go. The only thing I knew to do was escort at that time that I could make now money to take care of myself. And I knew how corrupted the police are in America. You can imagine what kind of people the police officers are that would do the things even as mild as the things that they have done with me. When I met the person who claims that evidently he was a producer, that's the title that he gave himself, and that's what I put him on, music. When I heard the things that came out of his mouth, okay, sporadically, while I was in his presence, I strongly did not need to hear it, and I was not in agreement with it. I didn't want to be, I was the kind of person, I am the kind of person, I was the kind of person, I don't want to be around people that are talking like that. I'm not judging them, I don't want to be in that conversation. It's no different than when I was at school and there was a large group of different people. You just don't sit beside certain people you don't sit beside. It's not them, you just know it's not what's best for you. In a desperate situation, it was very hard when I spilled out and I simply told him, I need work. I can clean, I can run errands. I was given ideas of different things that I have done for side money or if it was for a place to stay. I was really concerned because I didn't want to go back knowing everything I knew about the law, not about clients. It was more about police officers. I literally did not want to go back escorting because I knew how corrupted the cops were. And when you can't speak to people and get them in a manner that they have compassion for your circumstances, you don't even know how to respond. You don't know why you keep running into this. But it's definitely not a good sign. You know that your problem is not anybody else's problem, but you have a problem. And the damn government that forces you to go to school wouldn't educate you and tell you, hey, in a time like this is what you can do to get your needs met. No argument there. It's all top secret. Well, if you really want it, then you're going to have to figure it out yourself. I realized that when I was really sick when I was there, coincidentally, especially right around the time I went into the studio, they, whoever they are, from another planet, have the ability to make us what we call flu-like symptoms, okay, with their direct energy weapons, whatever they are. They have the ability to cause serious health problems very quickly, to heat your body up so your temperature changes. That's why I don't believe this virus that's going around. I'm not saying it's not, and it might be a virus, but I guarantee you these people have something to do with it. Now, I didn't know this 100% at that time. I just knew that I was having flu-like symptoms. I didn't want to go to the hospital because I didn't have health insurance at that time. It's not that I wouldn't go. It'd have to be serious for me to go at that time, because at that time I was paying cash for everything. So with that being said, I didn't share a lot of the details with the household. I didn't feel that I should. I don't want to just be known as somebody who's going through a whole lot of problems. And not only that, the bass player who played on the demo, who I thought was cool, I thought he was cool. When I met him, I was really excited. I might not have looked it, but I was. He ended up being a smartass to me. I just remember thinking, dude, you could never go through what I'm going through right now. You don't even have a clue. It seemed that there was more people in that house that were gossiping and making an ass out of themselves as they were attempting, evidently, to make an ass out of me. These people are connected to the two ministries, at least the one that I used to watch, Joyce Myers. Okay? This is somebody she evidently does business with. And it makes sense the more time goes on. Like minds. Very harsh in very sensitive situations. With that being said, with a lot of the things I was going through, and I left, I came home. I never heard anything back, but one time I ended up going up there and I realized that's a psychopath. I'll talk about that another time. Psychopathic. In my opinion, very haunting. To know that he's connected to Willie Nelson and a whole lot of other people within that, the music industry, Madonna and stuff. It freaks me out to know that this clan of people were basically targeting me like they've done people like Poco Loco, the father of rock and roll. They've seen me as pretty much brainless and an easy target. And what I mean by that is I have hit songs, not fully recorded. I'm going through a lot of psychological challenges at the time, and I'm homeless. People in the music industry like to target people like that, to use their songs, and believe it or not, to either torment them psychologically with their CB radio frequency technology, to get them to either kill themselves or to completely wreck their lives. Now, why would people do that? That's a good question. It's pretty wild, isn't it? I will talk more about that. I've talked about it on my videos before. I don't know if I'm going to share all of that in this video, as it's 11:30 at night. Check it out. It is 11/11/2020 at 11:26 p.m. So with that being said, I really truly had a hard time moving forward with this, but I did. I knew I wasn't going to have a real car. I wasn't going to have a Cadillac. Okay? And I had a camera that was given to me as a gift by somebody I used to date. And it necessarily, by that time, has been used a lot. It necessarily was not up to the newer technology, and it was very difficult for me to take great pictures and not have to clone them a lot to get them to appear the way I needed them to appear. In other words, I didn't have high-end equipment. Okay? Where with the perfect lighting, perfect everything, you get the photograph you want. I'm very serious about my endeavors. Okay? I don't know where other people are. I could care less when it comes to that end of it. I really wanted to do something, and I didn't have a whole lot of other needs met first, and that's what I was trying to attempt to do. Not to mention, they're talking smart about, the Dixie Chicks are looking for a hit. And the only thing that I could remember back from my producer and other people I met in the music industry is the family. They attempt to make you keep it about religion and politics. The recording artist. Okay? These are the same people that are connected to a whole lot of other people that you maybe support in some way in mainstream music and entertainment and political realms and government. I would like to tackle that another time. And as I move forward, I just want to show you what I ended up doing. I could not get a real car. However, what I did do is when I was working at Walmart in 2011, I had purchased a toy. Okay, and I'll show you this really quick. So what I did is I took the toy car that I had, okay, and I put it on my headboard in my bedroom, and I took photographs of it in different angles. So that's the toy car. I later on gave that to Michael, a friend of mine that I had met at Walmart in 2011, as a gift because I was at that time going to be homeless yet another time. Okay, so meanwhile, Tracilyn already knows that at any given time, the person that I am currently staying with can stop taking care of me, because that's pretty much what was going on in a lot of areas. And I could be homeless, like a child that didn't know how to take care of itself, because what do? I already tried everything. With that being said, I got a lot of that on my mind as I'm making this, and I already know that the first thing I need is a home foundation that I can actually live in without being evicted because of whatever reason, somebody's idea of life, not being submissive to exactly their idea of what they want me to be. It's challenging for everyone. That's why God's way is better. Okay? And I'm looking forward to getting more into that. When you start reading scripture, and I wish more people would, you start realizing that the way that we've been being forced to live is truly by satanic measures against smoldering life. That's not just for me, that is for everybody, every human being on the planet. We're ready to wrap things up here before we go into the car, and I just wanted to share in this album art, let me see, I think it's the album cover, the CD label and album backing. Okay, the last and not the least, is the actual album art sleeve. Whoops, I go back here a little bit. So it's going to be the front of the album cover, okay, in the sleeve. And then over here is kind of like a logo that I made that is keeping Jesus the center of dreams. That was something that I made right around 2011, I think, as well. And it was because my heart was to not do music as a business at that time anymore, but it was to do like some sort of ministerial. What that meant, I wasn't 100% sure. I had ideas of things, and I most certainly wanted to be a big part of helping the transgendered community, specifically with transsexual females. And a lot of that is because of the things that I've endured, what I went through. I realized that it was a lot of things that I was going through, a lot of other people were going through. And it was important to me to be a part of raising awareness, educating the general public with transsexual topics that I was familiar with. And I wanted to not only do that with music or through music and live performances on at least occasion, but I also wanted the opportunity to share my life story and my insight and my perspective on things in hopes of encouraging others, okay? And most certainly to let other people know that, much like myself, we are not alone. There has been a lot that has occurred in our country, and this is good news. I am thankful for that in many ways. And in all of the endeavors that I was doing, I made the logo with a cross because I wanted to keep God the center of my doings, whatever it was. Keeping God the center of my dreams. And the V, of course, is for victory. I will not be printing this out today. Obviously, you got the song titles and everything. This would be the inner sleeve backing. So it would be folded. And on the inside, I am going to show you in a second. I wanted to, in at least one of my CD albums, I never knew I was going to be doing 3 albums, by the way. So this is kind of a surprise to me, and I'm very grateful. I was hoping in this lifetime that I could at least do 1 album. And I had a lot of difficulties in trying to achieve it in a manner that I really desired to do it. So that's my story in sharing this with you, is that I ended up doing this alone in my studio. And I'm very grateful that I did. And I wish that I would have been more informed on a lot of the matters that I've came to learn while I was recording. Because for me, it's a lot better this way. And it's exciting as well. I had taken photos of myself back in like 2012 when I was doing like my song Nebraska recordings in a different way with just mainly acoustic and adding some like bass or acoustic instruments, you know, percussion instruments. And I wasn't necessarily 100% happy with it, but it's what I've done through my struggle with everything. And I'm going to be putting one of the photos on the inside. When I had done an album, I was hoping to have a fold-out poster. Obviously, I wanted to do a photo shoot and have a really nice poster that would go along with the album. So I know how much that meant to me when I used to really be into looking at other people's albums. It wasn't more in cassettes and stuff at that time, 8 tracks, cassettes, and then it started getting into CDs. And I know that in my endeavors, I wanted to be able to not only share my music, but share a lot of me, and that includes even in photography. So with that being said, I also, right now, because I'm only making like studio demos and models, as I call them, I don't have a printer big enough to print out the size poster that I would have wanted to do, and I don't really want to go into the endeavors of including another business or other people in doing this part of it, because it really truly is a model for me to set around the apartment and for me to look at and to think about things over a period of time as far as to what I would like to do maybe in the future. This is the photo that I decided to add in while browsing through a lot of different CDs and stuff. I've decided to do where the outside would kind of like fold together in half. When you open up the insert and you spread it out, this would be the actual poster. Okay, it's like a mini poster. If I were to do it the way that I originally wanted to, it might have been another photograph, but it would have been double as high. Or maybe another half of a card out, and then that same doubled up to unfold a poster. So this is what I've decided to go with, considering I'm going to be printing it out on my home printer. And I wanted to make sure that I included one of these photos because I really put a lot of time and energy in using the equipment I had, and despite my circumstances and uncertainty as far as to whether I'm going to have a home or not have a home, I had no clear direction whatsoever of what I'm going to be doing with all of this. I was dreading ever going back to doing music, live performance the way that I used to. You know, once in a while, yes, I just really, can I tell you that I was really adamant about the fact that I didn't want to be going through my entire life by myself. And when you're listening to other people and their teachings, the truth of the matter is a whole lot of very important things are missing. And what I've realized is you don't want to just connect with people, which I kind of realized that then. I think we all kind of have a knowing you don't want to just connect with anybody. There has to be compatibility of some sort. And I can't believe that I struggled most of my life with that. And I really learned a lot when I was an escort, because in the gay community you have tops, you have bottoms, that's me, and then you have switches. I don't know about that. It had to be a very special someone. Now here's the thing, check this out. You realize that, you realize compatibility, whether you want to admit it or not, tops and bottoms, okay? Just with those two things alone. If it's really certainty and correct, right, I mean the person's being genuinely real, and they're with somebody that fits the compatibility role, everything is beautiful, okay? It's beyond any words that could be described. When there is a force for instance, a bottom to be a top, or to be in a role that is not necessarily authentically them, then you have a dislike, okay, that goes along with that. And you are not going to be able to change that. It's naturally there. That's the same in compatibility with other people that you're in relationships with. And if you don't know how to go about matching up friends, I naturally, through all the friends that I had, I ran into them in my neighborhoods or through my family. And you just started to connect with people, like because you ride bike or because you do play basketball or you want to play a game of hide and seek. And you just start laughing with people and connecting with them that way. And then it may lead on to, hey, do you want to come over to my house sometime or my apartment and we can hang out, or we're going to have a cookout, you can come over. So you're kind of making friends that way. But as time goes on, you start to realize that certain areas of life a lot of people are losing interest in, and you're finding out that there are some things you're still very interested in yourself, but you are not being able to connect with others who have those compatibilities or have those same likings. With that being said, relationships have become very, very difficult with me. And not only with connecting with friends, but lovers, intimacy, dating relationships, musical endeavors. One of the hardest things that I ever had to endure was doing musical endeavors with others. And a lot of the times along the lines, it was realistically that I was very serious about doing what I'm doing. It might not be your idea of a musician or singer or recording artist or a human being, but I am very serious. And what I realized is in those endeavors, once I got away from trying to connect with people that way, and I started to do the things that I did things that many other people would say that I could not do, or we couldn't do it, or it can't be done. When I find out that I have done things in the past that I have done, whether in adult entertainment or in music entertainment, and I listen to other people speak, it still goes on today, the disbelief in others. And I know what I did, my psychological struggles that were always there, and what I endured. And can I tell you that when I was out here, I just simply didn't know what to do with my life, and I knew I needed to get my needs met. I didn't know how about going to get my needs met. I was looking at volunteering for ministerial. One of the things that I felt very led to do was to have a children's rock and roll ministry of some sort. And I'm very passionate. I love children, okay? Passionate. I was very passionate then about children. And with my love of music, I had sought out possibilities on leading like worship. But I didn't want to take on the whole task by myself. And I dabbled with it a little bit here and there, and it wasn't satisfying. It wasn't enough for me. I really needed an outlet that I could do things on a consistent, regular basis. That's where this comes in. Once I finally had a place to live, I had the means to get the necessities, resources, and I delve in to doing things on my own. I've done a lot of research. I started realizing, in combination with everything I witnessed throughout my whole life, whether through my own experiences or listening to other people, I started to realize that this all was ridiculous at the end of the day. With the joke of, going down to Nashville or moving to a bigger city like New York or Los Angeles. The bottom line is, you want to surrender to the truth of your desires. And you want to seat yourself. You want to sit yourself in a home, in a location that says, I can maximize my fullest potential at fulfillment of the life inside my brain. With that being said, as you go about those endeavors, I realize that I never had to leave my hometown. I didn't have to go to Nashville. And in my opinion, I listen to my music all the time, and I would say I've learned that me doing it the way that I've done, today if somebody would ask me to go to Nashville to record an album, I'd laugh at them. And I'd say, prove to me first that you have an album that came out about Nashville with hotter songs than what I've recorded on my HP laptop computer, okay? See, it changes things now. Today, with the technology that we have, the dolls, I have seen a lot of people bounce around the United States and abroad, most likely seeking out similar things that I was seeking out. And many people have sought out for many years. And unfortunately, a lot of people that I know were really good end up either putting it off to the wayside. In other words, they don't continue on with musical endeavors, for instance. Or they do a whole lot less than they are able to do because things did not work out in a manner in their psychological belief system that was dominated, that if you play an instrument or you're a songwriter, you should move here or move there. And, if things don't work out for you, then it probably isn't meant to be. And the truth of the matter is, I would like to say that if the life is inside of you, the desires are there, then you want to sit yourself somewhere where you can live a life in balance, that you could fulfill your day-to-day life with doing things you enjoy doing, and don't stop doing music. And there's a good chance that if it's really true and you want to do your music, you'll find out that you would have never fell for the move to Los Angeles if you do music, or move to Nashville if you're a songwriter, move to Hollywood because you're an actor, an actress, an entertainer, move to New York. You would laugh at the faces of those people, and for starters, you would say, who can afford to live at any of those places? Because we all know the price and the cost of living in those areas are unruly high, okay? They're recklessly high. So here I live in Dayton, Ohio. I am going through the things that I'm going through, and I'm realizing on a regular basis that in my generation, in my life, if things like Studio One, DAWs, would have been introduced to me earlier on as I started to do music, I don't know how it would have necessarily turned out, but I would say it's definitely way better than the equipment that I used to use to make recordings with. You can do a lot more with them. It's much easier today with the internet and everything to share your content. The problem that we have when we share our content online is we're being bulldogged by other people who change view counts. They hide our content from others. They use us as resources. Okay? People in mainstream. Or if for some reason there's a dominancy, they don't want you to be known, they don't want your songs to be heard, then they filter it out. Okay? My YouTube channel had been attacked viciously once I put my content out. And I know that I was targeted by a bunch of bullies that I would consider to be more satanic military. And I don't want to go into the details of all that, but I realized the same thing that I realized when I was self-employed as a singer-songwriter is content online is no guarantee if anybody's even listening to it. Don't believe your view counts. They're ridiculously out of alignment from the truth. I realized that back then, that when you're really in person, in my opinion, that's where it's at. That's where you can do a head count if you want to. That's where you can actually communicate with people directly if you want to. You know, that's where you can actually physically hand somebody a CD if you want to, or something with your name on it. You start doing things online, you don't know if anybody's ever really going to see it. Because there's cruel people that actually hide all that. The more that I started to record and the more I started to post online, I started to come into a whole lot of realizations of things that I've talked about with other people. Even in mainstream music, I've learned that when you're servicing your heart, minus the bullying that comes along from whatever force it is that does that, you are a lot more content, more satisfied. And today, in my opinion, from my experience of even working with other people, bands, being in and out of bands, and working with producers and stuff, there is nothing like hitting play, knowing that you did all of the voices, all of the instrumentation, and mixing and mastering. It's you. And you do the very best you can to be as authentically, genuinely you as you can capture in a recording. And same with whether it's photography or videography. At the end of the day, if you like it, it's good enough. If somebody else doesn't like it, they can go somewhere else to listen or to watch or whatever the deal is. But no longer would you fall for, hey, you know, you're a really good songwriter. What are you doing living here? Why don't you live in Nashville, you know? And today I joke about that because why? In my opinion, nothing this great has ever come out of Nashville. And if you sit down and you listen to content that comes out of Nashville, you would realize, without being mean about it, if you're really delving in to be genuine, the very best you that you can be, you are not going to want your music to sound like everybody else's. And down there they had, at least used to have, a very famous saying that cheeseburgers sell, for instance. If you are one of those people who acknowledge what cheeseburgers sell, you have to ask yourself if you're real. Would you rather eat at McDonald's? Or would you rather eat in a very romantic, a very fine, beautiful restaurant? Perfectly lit, with quality food that was freshly prepared by a chef. There is a huge difference from you sitting down and doing your music versus waiting in line at the drive-thru. Okay? For somebody to flip you a stale bun and a half-cold burger. In my opinion, I would say you don't want to sell cheeseburgers. You want to do much better than that. And that goes along with the overall disappointment that I had years ago when I realized that the only place to go for me, for good music, was all the way back to my uncle and my family, which that's old-time gospel, or, classic music that has been around like in the 90s and 80s and 70s and 60s, 50s. But things that are heard in like mainstream commercial, usually on the radio, on TV and stuff, it's either stuff from years ago or it's just like all of a sudden there's this pop music where everything is computer-like and somebody's singing or lip singing, or it's very aggressive, very deep-throated music or speed metal. But there might be now, but the difficulties in finding fun, commercially pop, rock and roll music that is uplifting is in itself, or was, very challenging to surf through the radio and hear new stuff. In my opinion, that was until I came along and I got to hear my music. And I have been very, very grateful that I had the opportunity to have all the build-up of frustration and anger and have the opportunity to finally get out of my head what has been playing musically inside for a long time and have the opportunity to hit play and get the opportunity to listen to it through speakers. I listen to it all the time. So that's my album art. This is my album. I wanted to share it with you, whoever else wants to listen to it, or watch the video, I mean. I'm going to be doing an observation period for a few months, maybe till next year sometime. And I'm going to go over it one more time with automation, maybe checking some EQ and stuff, tweaking it, and then I'll finally be able to download an absolute version of it and file, anything to do with copyrights or registering the songs. I'm with BMI right now. I wanted to stay with ASCAP, and I could not speak to anybody rationally and intelligently when I was trying to explain to them that they claimed that there was like some kind of licenses holding songs that I had registered with ASCAP, and they wouldn't release to me the information so I could figure out who has those licenses on my music, because I don't receive no royalties. So in my opinion, it felt like there was a very evil force that was holding my songs and holding my account, because I wanted to close my account with ASCAP because they would not allow me to change my name. I'm almost positive that was the reasoning. I don't know if gender status had to be with that or not, but I did not want to log on to their website and continuously see the name that my mom had given me. Not because of my mom, but I wanted to transition, and I had my new female name, and I wanted to sincerely use that, and I didn't want to constantly be looking back on yesterday. I have my music, I have all the legal documents and stuff that go along with it. I would not disregard that, but they're kept away for me as I want to look at them or if I need to, they're available. But I was really excited, and I was looking forward to moving forward as Tracilyn Michael, in my musical endeavors especially. And when I had the confrontation, not really that bad, but the disagreement, I decided to just close out ASCAP, but they wouldn't let me fully close it, to go with BMI. And to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you, I didn't like that. I didn't want to go with BMI. BMI, I did a lot of research years ago, and ASCAP was the better of things like CSAC, BMI, etc., etc. From everybody that I've ever talked to all the investigation I did online and in person, I came with the conclusion that ASCAP would be the way for me to go as a songwriter. And I did get royalties. You know, my songs were in jukeboxes and stuff like that, and on the radio, so I got a little bit. And it always feels good to get a royalty check, right? Especially in the beginning days. If you always dreamt, you know, of being like a songwriter, or you always desired to be a songwriter. So that's pretty cool. When I had that problem with ASCAP, which I did not call it to straighten out here lately, because I'm working all the time on my music, I decided to just go with BMI. I didn't want to. And one of the dominant reasons is from I don't want to talk about it now, but things that I've heard from others that I've talked to. And it was just a final conclusion that it would be better as a songwriter to go with ASCAP, but BMI is, I think, more for like instrumental kind of music, but I'm not 100% sure. But I didn't really like the idea overall, so I don't want to say why, but I didn't really like the idea. And I've never really been fully happy with that decision. But with going through what I went through with ASCAP, I went with it. And that's when my other 2 songs are registered, or 2 albums, and that's what I'm planning on doing with my next 2 albums, is registering them, of course, with BMI. Hopefully in the future, something else will come out. You know, who knows? But anyway, that's where I'm at, and I don't think there's anything else left to share except for it's burning time. So I'm going to go down to the car. We got to try these CDs out. When I come up, I'm going to actually print them out, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. And then we're going to move forward. And hopefully I'll get to print the actual album art out. Not all of it, but only a portion of it. And then I can lay down and go to sleep because I'm very tired. It is 1:18 a.m., which means I've been at this for a couple hours, and I'm dehydrated. I need